Ja, normalerweise stehe ich immer hier und spreche über Storm Audio. Und ja, wir sind der Distributeur von Storm Audio, aber wir verkaufen auch Trinnov. Wir machen daraus keine agnostisch angesetzte Religion. Auch hier übrigens mit Vor-Ort-Kalibrierung von uns haben wir im Shop dann auch verfügbar. Trinnov Altitude 16 immer auf Lager. Und hier beim Trinnov-Stand werde ich jetzt gleich ein kleines Interview führen, um ein paar kleinere Produktupdates zu besprechen. Es ist jetzt nicht so, jetzt sind wir hier gerade bei Macintosh, die hier dieses phänomenal gute Heimkino mit einer epischen Verstärkerwand hier befeuern. Und ich möchte mal ganz kurz hier was zeigen. Das ist jetzt vom Timing her schlecht, was hier gerade aufgebaut ist. Das ist das Thema MadVR. Gibt es übrigens auch bei uns, aber habe ich schon woanders erwähnt. Man zeigt ja was ganz Interessantes, nämlich zum ersten Mal eine Beta-Version der Motion Interpolation Software, die als Gratis-Update für die Besitzer von einem MadVR Extreme Videoprozessor irgendwann zu haben sein wird. Wann genau, konnte ich noch nicht in Erfahrung bringen, aber zumindest wird es hier gezeigt, soll in Kürze kommen, geht übrigens nur für den Extreme, nicht für den Pro. So, wir kämpfen uns hier durch. Ich lasse den Johnny mal durch, das ist hier Rough and Dirty, wir machen das als One-Take hier von der Messe. Jetzt haben wir die Mikrofongespräche vom John mit drauf. Da müssen wir das nächste Mal besser aufpassen. Sorry. Hi, John. Hi. Nice to meet you. John is General Manager USA.
Trinnov USA, yeah.
Only Trinnov or anything else?
No, we're
just focused on Trinnov. So that's fine.
My paycheck comes from Trinnov, yes.
All right. So let's talk about Trinnov. How do you call it? Altitude, what's the English term?
So the preamplifiers, the surround preamps are altitude. Altitude 32, altitude, the sense being, you know, the best of the best.
I always
up
keep
there.
saying altitude. That's a German.
Altitude, it's hard to...
altitude.
And then the power amps are referred to as the amplitude, which is supposed to be funny, I guess. It makes it hard because they sound so much alike. But for example, we have a new 16-channel amplitude, amplifier, as a matching piece to the 16-channel altitude.
But this one has already been released just a while ago.
Yes, we've been shipping these for a few months now. I have yet actually to be able to hear one because as soon as they come in, they're getting shipped right back out.
You have a very crowded space here.
Yeah, we've been very busy. The line has been an hour and a half, 2 hours long for most of the show.
You get a lot of appreciation from the crowd, actually.
I'm amazed that the folks in the crowd have been so patient because it has been a very long line.
Yeah, we have a longer line than the biggest roller coaster.
People have been great about it. Yeah.
Fine.
So yeah, we're doing in here. We have a 29 speaker system. It's 11.12.6. So we have 12 subwoofers. I didn't get the order wrong.
We've just been in the demo. It was amazing.
Okay, thank you.
Sound-wise.
And the Altitude 32 is the brain of the system. It does all of the surround decoding and so forth. We're using our optimizer, of course, to help the speakers perform better at what they already do very well, and also to address some of the room acoustics issues. We're also in great shape because Oficina Acustica designed the acoustics of the room as well as the aesthetics of the room. I don't know if you have any pictures of the inside. Yes. Good. So between a room that sounds good to begin with, which is, which we had to build in 2 days, there was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Between a good room, good electronics, we've got 19 of the Macintosh power amplifiers driving the 29 speakers. And then Sonus Faber is introducing what I gather is a new range of sort of custom integration oriented speakers, which is what's being premiered here.
Yeah. From your point of view, if you have a customer that has no room treatment at all, are you one of those guys who tells them, look, just buy a Trinnov and you're totally fine with it?
No.
3D remapping is the solution for everything?
The optimizer will make the best of the situation you give us, but I'd much rather start off from a good place than a bad place. So no, we're big believers. The things that passive room treatment can really do well are precisely the things that active room correction can't really do anything about.
Reverberation, yeah.
Yeah, reverberation time. If you if your reverb time is in, measured in seconds, it's still going to sound like a high school gymnasium. And we'll give you the best high school gymnasium you've ever heard, but it's still going to be a high school gymnasium. In our mind, I actually, my rule of 3 for getting my recipe for getting really good sound is the first thing is to to do passive room treatment on the room as much as you're willing to do. I realize some people, resist that, but do everything you can to make the room sound better. Then buy really good speakers, because I can't make bad speakers into good speakers. That's not realistic. And then once you get those 2 things right, then get something like the optimizer to take care of the rest. Then you do those 3 things, everything else is small by comparison.
And then you press the magic button and use the Trinnov measurement.
Well, setting up the optimizer is actually pretty quick and easy, and we have a setup wizard, so you don't have to know a lot to get good results. But the last little bit is fine-tuning the target curve and, just doing critical listening and making small adjustments. The setup wizard will get you to, 85 or 90% of what's possible. So it does most of the work. But that last little bit, you still need people who know what good sound is to do the last little bit.
Absolutely. Talking about HDMI 2.0, what's the situation right now? When will those updates hit the shelves, and when will units be shipped with that board?
Well, we're shipping HDMI 2.0 now, and have been for a long time. The 2.1 board, which is 8K and 120 frames per second and all of that, it's designed. The software and firmware is pretty much done. We do have to do a little bit of testing, but we can't go into production until we can get production quantities of the chips. And right now, the chipset that we want to use is just very hard to get. So we've been able to do design work because we can get, we've gotten a few, but we don't even have enough to do formal beta testing yet. So currently we're expecting, this could change, but we're expecting we'll start shipping HDMI 2.1 sometime in the first quarter of next year, 23. So, 3, 4, 5 months from now, something like that.
Do you know whether all inputs will be able to handle 40 gigabits?
Yeah, 40.
And you don't have to use 3 PCB boards like Denon actually tells their customers?
I am not aware of what Denon is doing, but no, all inputs will be fully 2.1 compliant, as are the outputs. It's going to be 8 inputs and 2 outputs. The 2 outputs are different because one of them supports ARC and eARC, audio return channel, whereas the other one is, if you will, more purist for the video file, because there's no additional circuitry that could get in the way of a good picture. And that's the way our 2.0 board is built now. We have 2 inputs, or 2 outputs, excuse me, one of which is just a little bit more flexible, and the other of which is more purist video file. Yeah,
makes sense. Are there any interesting upcoming features from future firmware versions you can announce right now?
We try not to talk about things before they're ready to be introduced, but I can tell you one that happened recently. Not too long ago, we introduced what we call our +4 software, which gives everybody who owns an Altitude 4 additional channels beyond what they originally paid for. And the way we were able to do that, and it was a free upgrade to all of our customers, the way we're able to do that is by putting in an Altitude 16, for example, we put channels 17 and 18 on the coaxial SPDIF output, 19 and 20 are on the Toslink output. So with the addition of 1 or 2 potentially inexpensive stereo DACs, you can now do, for example, 9.4.6 and have independent control over everything still.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Are there any plans to adapt the aesthetics and the look of both the processors to each other? Right now they look quite different, so will there be any
Not really.
design?
The Altitude 32 has a laser etched, very nice looking faceplate. It also costs a lot of money. to do all of that engraving. So on the Altitude 16, where we were trying to provide the same performance but at a lower price point, it has somewhat fewer channel capabilities, somewhat less expandable, and we went with a high quality painted faceplate instead of an engraved one.
By the way, sorry for interrupting. Did you have the chance to hear both versions of Altitude 16 with the common used deck board and the new implementation?
Back in March. I was in Paris in March, and I had an opportunity to compare the two. The existing.
Is there really a difference? I didn't have the chance to evaluate that.
I'm a little embarrassed to say this honestly, but I couldn't hear a difference.
Oh, okay. So
now, there is a measurable difference. The new DACs have a somewhat better signal-to-noise ratio, but the room that I was listening to them in, I don't think was quiet enough for me to really hear that.
Sure.
In other respects, the overall level of detail and tonality and everything, they're both really, really good. And they were, the engineers balanced them so they're within 1/10 of a decibel of exactly the same volume, and I could switch back and forth. And when I was listening to a certain clip, a piece of music that I know well, sometimes I think, this one is a little bit better, but is it because it's slightly louder? And if I played with the volume, whichever one was louder by as little as 1/10 of a dB was the one I preferred.
Perception is better, okay.
So they're really close. But the signal-to-noise ratio on the new DACs is going to be a little bit better. I'm not sure how often that's going to be important. But
okay. As you're familiar with the American market?
A little bit. I've been doing it for more than 50 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many percent of American Trinnov consumers buy their own microphone and do the whole calibration by themselves? Approximately.
So it's almost two different questions. I know you didn't mean to, but the people who really do it themselves, they do all the calibration and all the tuning and everything, that's probably on the order of 15, maybe 20% of our sales.
Okay, that's quite
a large majority of our sales are installed, calibrated, and everything by our dealers. The question that I almost thought you were going to ask is how many of our customers wind up buying the microphone? That's a different number. That's about half, maybe a little bit more. And the reason is that some of our dealers will buy one microphone and use it on every system they sell, and a lot of our dealers sell a microphone with every altitude.
So they ensure to get the microphone calibration file being used for their calibration.
I'm sorry.
So they ensure to get their specific microphone with their microphone calibration file being used for the calibration in their home theater.
The microphone calibration file is on a little USB stick that comes with the microphone.
Yeah, but when a dealer comes to them with his microphone he uses on all places,
they just insert the USB stick in the altitude.
You can simply forget
and load the calibration
do that.
file. Well, you could forget, but it's not that hard. But you're not supposed to forget.
Okay.
But for a lot of dealers wind up, these systems tend to be it's not just our stuff, they tend to be very big, very expensive systems. And for the price of the microphone, a lot of our dealers would rather just have one at the job site so that if they send an installer out to do something, there's no way they can forget it.
Sure. Okay.
But that's more of a business concern than it is preference.
Okay, fine. Anything else you'd like to add, or?
Oh gosh, well, I hope we've had 1.5 to 2 hour long lines throughout the show here.
It's getting empty. You can stretch out.
Yeah, we have it's exactly 3 o'clock right now. So in theory, the show is closed. There'll probably be an announcement on the PA in a moment or two.
What's your impression from this show so far?
Oh, it's been great. It's a little bit overwhelming in terms of the line that we've had to get in, but thank heavens people have been very patient and very gracious about the fact that we could only demonstrate 12 people at a time, and each demonstration was about 20 minutes, including the time it takes to get people in and out. So and only 36 people an hour, we had a very long line, and people were very patient, thankfully. But word got around pretty quickly that this was the demo of the show to see, so we have apparently established a reputation that we have to keep trying to outdo ourselves every year.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so thank you so much for taking some time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.